We are recording. Hello and welcome to the job. And I am here with Ron here. Oh, how's it going, Ron?
Yeah, good mate. It's just snaffling a bit of yogurt, banana, and some blueberries.
Yeah, that
So
question.
cheers.
The question I asked was only sort of polite. It wasn't really actually on all that information, but that's good. Uh,
You asked.
we've just hit record, haven't we? Because normally we have great conversations like these about what you're eating and your glasses you're wearing and all the usual stuff. And then we hit record, and I think all the best bits gone. So we've come on and just hit record, haven't we?
Let's go, mate.
Let's
Um,
let's do it.
yeah, I would say I am grateful to be here speaking with you again, mate. It's been a while. Lots of little changes in our lives, haven't there? So we don't speak maybe quite as often as we once did. So to get to have another conversation, record it, and listen back at our own leisure
Well,
is
I too think you're very lucky to be here. Very privileged you are. So yeah, we're all in agreement. Because what we're going to talk about today, wasn't it? We were chatting the other day, and we were talking about breaking it down, weren't we?
Mm.
Can you remember that?
Yeah, the thing that stuck out in my head from that conversation whilst I was driving, hands free,
Breaking.
was yeah, marginal gains. Yeah, breaking it down.
That was
Marginal. I
it.
think yeah, it was around marginal gains as well, if I remember rightly,
Marginal gains. Yes. And
and what that means to us.
yes. And I think just our experience of it, because the reason it sort of struck home for me is because I definitely got, I don't know if you've got this, that all or nothing mentality. Don't know
Mm.
if you do you have that?
Oh yeah.
Do you identify as a perfectionist as well?
Oh fucking hell. Let me just think of the perfect answer a minute.
Yeah, hang on. Can we scratch that and
No,
edit it, please?
no, I don't.
Wait.
Balls to the labels, and I think a lot of my work will testify to that. B minus, which is something we talked about a lot when you were coaching me. Get it done, get it out there, on to the next. However, because that's been a system that has worked for me for so long when I was younger, it still creeps up
Hmm.
on me every now and then, especially if I'm busy, if I'm not aware, if I'm not looking after myself. Yeah, it's really easy to get stuck in story and think, oh yeah, just another little edit, or maybe tomorrow,
So,
etc., etc.
so
But I
you
don't identify as.
do you think you've got the traits of it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because I only ask because something I've been, as I hear people talking, I've not met anyone. The reason I asked you the question is because when you said like this, that all or nothing, I've not personally met anyone yet who's that all or nothing, who's not a perfectionist or has those. I know we don't want to label, but has those tendencies, and it's interesting, I think, isn't it? Because I've been coaching people lately, and I notice it in myself when we that pendulum swings. It's like a law of physics. If we go to all, it's gonna go back to nothing at some point, and how just when you take small, marginal, small steps, sometimes so small, you sort of think, is this even getting me anywhere? But doing that regularly
Mm.
actually I think, gets more lasting results.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember why we're talking about this because I was driving to go and meet a mate who's yeah, we him and I were going to go train jiu-jitsu together, and he's a lot more experienced than me. And I can't remember what we're talking about, but it's along the lines of you don't really notice your progression. It's quite hard to see our own progression and our own journeys or our own lives. Um, and that something this sport has helped me see is just that. As you alluded to there, sometimes just showing up, in fact, let me scrub that, showing up is good enough.
Mm, yeah.
Because not every training session, not every sales call, not every conversation at work or with our partners is going to go to plan or how we expect. But the fact that we're there doing the thing is enough. Why? Because I believe fundamentally underneath all of that, we are enough. And that's taken me a long time to learn. And I still slip into, no, I have to do, or I have to achieve to be valuable. But
Mm.
yeah.
I love that because yeah, that's how the conversation started, wasn't it? Because we were, I think you were talking about like you knew someone else that had joined around the same time, and they had been all in, got a few injuries, and then come out, and how you would approached it very differently. You were just your jujitsu, you had not been like all in at once. You're just doing, like you say, just happy showing up, doing little bits and that progression. And you've been doing it now how long?
Well, yeah, that would, but I think if I were to wind back a bit further than that, so I started probably 3 and a bit years ago. And after 6 weeks, I got a massive knee injury, which saw me have to take a year off almost, or like
Mm.
10 months off to recover. So the universe gave me a gentle slap. Think, there you go. Chill out, boy. There's nothing to fight. There's nothing to prove. It does, yeah, belts are just things that hold your trousers up. Um, take it or not. You don't worry about it. So yeah, it didn't start off like that. But
Mm.
I think one of the things that this sport has shown me, and especially shown me my mate who's been training for so long, Brendan, and a purple belt is yeah, the long game with small consistent steps is it beats the short, sharp, intense game with most things. Specifically, he was talking about jiu-jitsu, but as I reflect, it's probably true for a lot more things than we realize.
Yeah, it's funny because, and it's almost in conflict of what teach around sprints. But I don't know if it is conflict because I teach like you work in sprints, but I think it's like you say, it's how you're working in those sprints, is Because if you're doing small sprints and you're just making those marginal gains, whereas if in that sprint, if you're trying to like get, if you're trying to get some massive result in that sprint, then maybe that's when it causes the problem. Almost like instead of being realistic and going, yeah, in this sprint, I'm going to do 100 meters, it's almost like sprinting and trying to do a mile.
Exactly, yeah, it's the intensity, and I think for me, then, as I hear you say that, it makes me I question or get curious what place I'm coming from, you know, or what's really driving this. Um, yeah, and I think so. If we make it about work rather than analogies all the time, but it's like sometimes I forget the emotional toll that it can take, and I know part of my brain is screaming at me. That sounds like bollocks. Of sat at a desk having conversations, trying to make a business work, and just going from straight from one thing to the next to the next to the next without any time um, for rest or any time to transition or any time to leave one sort of mode behind before we go on to the next, I think can very slowly accumulate. Um, yeah, and sometimes there's a price to pay for that. So yeah, in intention and what I don't think there's anything wrong with sprinting. I've done lots myself in terms of work. It's intentionality. At this time, it will stop. I'll do this, recover. Yeah, and I've got a jiu-jitsu story or a sports story coming to mind, but yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute.
Do you think I think as I was hearing you talk there, I sort of think it's like you say, like when you're sat at your desk sometimes and you're doing the work and you're going, oh, and then you go to the next thing, the next thing. I don't know about you, but for me, that's to do with the feedback you're getting. Because what I find is I'm amazed at the work I can do when if you intrinsically love doing a certain work, you can just go and it doesn't fit, almost like it doesn't feel tiring. It feels energizing the more you do it. But I'm mindful of like, because I intrinsically love it, it's like I'm getting the feedback, I'm putting the effort in. I'm like, oh, yeah, getting the feedback. Or, if you actually do a piece of work and you get an obvious feedback, like I don't know, you may get a client or something like that, but I think a lot of the time in business and in our day-to-day jobs, I'm thinking like the police and stuff like that, you put a lot of work in and there's not obvious feedback. Like you've got to look for it. You've got to measure the gains, measure the wins, the small progress, because otherwise the brain just goes, "What is the point?" And
Yeah, this is dog shit.
it becomes hard, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, something we talked about, I think, late last year was for myself is that exactly that. I'd forgotten to build in a feedback loop for certain things. So of course, I then started to rely on motivation to show up, and when that started to dwindle, you're like, "Brr, yeah, off you go. We're doing without you." But yeah, the reward, yeah, it's the showing up. It's not necessarily for me the outcome. It's the input, the intention, and showing up is good enough. And again, I can take that to jiu-jitsu. I'm as a still a newbie, I find myself losing, getting tapped a lot. I have to tap a lot, and that's okay. It doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything. It's all part of the process, and me just showing up and doing the training session, following the techniques that the instructor gives us, is builds up over time. Yeah.
And the thing is, you're sort of disadvantaged anyway, aren't you, for that sport because a lot of it is strangling, and length, and
Some of it is. It's quite a
that
long length.
that length of that neck. I mean, you probably get half the jiu-jitsu club on it at the same time.
I hadn't coined that before. Well, in fact, I'm not going back tomorrow.
But yeah, and when you just said then about like it's the putting in the effort, and I talk about this a lot about putting in like it's what you give, but I don't know whether you find this is sometimes I do find that hard, like because it's when we do get if you went there and suddenly you try to throw and it worked and you suddenly win, you get this natural the feedback's it's effortless, isn't it? You're like, oh, it's bloody brilliant. And I think that like with our work, if someone does come up and go, that is a brilliant bit of work you've done, or you put you go out, you put some content out, and then someone comes and goes, I love that, I want to work with you and it is a challenge, isn't it, balancing it because I just go in no it's all about what I put in. I 100% agree it is the way to stay sustainably motivated because you're not looking for that outcome, you don't need it, but sometimes I think your brain looks for it, doesn't it? It's like I was reading a book the other day and it was saying that I've got to try and remember the anterior cingulate cortex, this part of the brain, is what monitors the progress. So it's literally like if when you decide a goal, you go, oh yeah, I want that, and you imagine it feels good. But then this part of the brain, anterior cingulate cortex, can't believe I managed to say that twice, made it up the first time. Um,
Just as well you wrote it down.
yeah, is that it's actually monitoring your progress. So it's actually going, is it worth putting the effort in that we're putting in? And if it's not, it switches off the dopamine. I mean, that's the simple
Mm,
terms. Obviously, the brain's a lot more complex than
mm,
that. And they say like it's like if you're thinking you want a reward and then you get that reward and it's as good as you expected, it keeps the dopamine being released. But if you're like putting effort in and you don't get that reward, and of course and if you're thinking I need the outcome, your brain will literally go switch that off, and that is when the work becomes hard, or anything becomes hard, isn't it? Because
mm,
suddenly you're working without that dopamine there, and that's why I think it's so key what you said about excuse me getting that um getting your reward from what you put in.
yeah. It reminds me then of another point, and that is the support element when we are working on certain things, or even in certain phases of our life, because we don't always get to see this for ourselves. So in terms of jiu-jitsu, there's an instructor there who will have a quiet word every now and then, be that a bit of a back slap or a bit of a slap, depending on what you need and who you are. Yeah, and in my own life, coaching or mentors, advisors, it's creating a bunch of people around me who aren't always just gonna uh, cheerlead me, or that they'll gently challenge me, and when I need it, give me that reminder, um, whatever way that's needed. So yeah, it's not outsourcing, but it's definitely building into my plan for in terms of sport, in terms of business, and even my relationships. To be honest, somebody to help me see those blind spots, help to reflect things back to me. just so we can double check I'm on the right track of the one that I want to be in, want to
Mm.
be on.
Yeah, and it is that middle every time. I keep coming back to this recently. Is like this. It's like a Buddhist concept of the middle way is the way. Like the extremes are where the
Mm.
suffering is. So if you hear this and go, well, I should never get any outcome from the effort I put in, or shouldn't have anyone cheering me on. Well, that extreme is there's going to be some suffering there. That's probably going to be quite a lonely, miserable place. And if you
Yeah,
went the other side, where if you were totally reliant on it, that's equally as hard and miserable. Whereas, like you say, like I've noticed this when you've got people in your corner who know what you want, so that they're not, it's not on their agenda. They know what you want, and they will question you and challenge you from a really good place because they're almost like they're championing your future self. So and there's no doubt about it. Those people when they do give you that pat and go, it's all right. You're on the right track. Nothing's gone wrong. There's no doubt
yeah,
that is very powerful, isn't it? I think
100%. Yeah,
surrounding ourselves with those people is how I sort of look at it is surrounding ourselves with those people is absolutely so important, but we don't want to be reliant on it for our motivation.
exactly that. I was going to say it's really nice to have, but yeah, the reliance or dependence, I think, is the word that jumps out of me. Is where it can become challenging. Yeah, if we're only ever looking for reward when we hit a certain level of our business or promotion at work, or a sporting event. Yeah, if we need it for that, we'll probably never find the fulfillment or reward in it, or it will just get fucked off with the next thing. And there's a phrase that I love. I can't remember where I stole it from
But we
or
stole it.
made it up from.
Found
There's
it.
been quite a few. Is it because you'll never get enough of what you don't need?
Ooh.
And the Iron Man story comes to me there when I was competing in Iron Man. I was looking to prove myself to the world through my results.
Mm.
And it was a fascinating journey. My takeaway is that if I was looking to be valuable to the world through a time on a clock by swimming, running, and biking a certain distance, then even if I hit it, it wouldn't be enough because it's not really what I needed.
So what's that
And so
saying
that's
again? What's that saying again? You never get enough of what you
you'll
need.
never get enough of what you don't need.
You never get enough of what you don't need. So
I didn't need external validation.
yeah.
I didn't, it's not what I needed. So I'd never got enough. I would have never got enough of it. And I can trace that all the way back through my military career as well. All the
Mm.
praise, I reject it because it's not what I needed. External validation is an internal validation thing.
Yeah. So how I relate to that, you tell me. I think it's on the same sort of track. Is I always look. I love a stick man figure. You've got us there, and if you're thinking you're not good enough, you're not worthy, and then you're going out into the world to try and get that from something else to prove that you are good
Yep.
enough, then you
Yeah.
get the praise. But because you think you're not good enough, you then reject it because you go, oh no, actually I'm not good enough, so it can't ever land. So then you just think you need to do more, seek more, do more, get better times. Because like you say, you cross that line and go, oh no, I still think I'm not good enough. I must need something bigger. And it's never fulfilled, is it?
No, no. And so the example of that was in fact, the last Ironman I did was quite a few years ago now. But it was that I had a goal of coming in under 10 hours. Um,
Were you
I
driving
don't,
it?
hey,
Were you driving it or running it?
I don't really know why. And no, I wasn't driving it. Um, And what I soon realized is that to try and aim for that time, I needed to do a certain amount of volume of training, a certain amount of hours a week. And that wasn't sustainable for myself or for my family or for my work. So I had to get rid of that goal. And I quite quickly realized after, what the fuck am I doing? Imagine it takes 10 hours and 1 second. Am I going to write off 6 months of training or however long it was? And that experience with a mate who'd come over from the UK who joined the Marines with me. And we went on to SF as well, actually, which is an incredible experience. Am I going to fuck this all off just for the sake of 1 second?
Yeah.
And does it make me a success if I go 3 seconds quicker than that and come at 9:59 58 or whatever, you know? So I was like, yeah, not convinced 3 seconds. I'm not going to put so much weight and responsibility on myself for the sake of 2 or 3 seconds. And so I realized that, okay, so maybe I can't go for this goal, but or in terms of the time, again, with wind, you could even be on for a good time, but if the wind changes and you've got a big head, that as well, well, that would drive you forward into the wind rather than the headwind
Yeah.
on the bike. But yeah, if you've got a massive headwind or puncture, then there's those things are out of your control. And it made me think, okay, so what can I control? My training sessions. I can prepare well for those. I can understand it the night before. I can get my kit ready the night before. I can get the water bottles if it's a ride. I can get my swim kit ready if it's a swim, blah, blah, blah. Broke it down into really small steps and recognized that sticking to the plan, which is already predetermined, not based on emotion, enough. And as it was an incredible experience. I absolutely loved it. I enjoyed it. I've came across the line in 10:04, but I wasn't bothered about the time. It was really special to see friends, family, contact around the course, and I felt like I'd won it for me. Yeah,
And that's it, isn't it? What one person's like you obviously didn't frame it like this, but I just say like if you had kept that, it got to be under 10 hours. That 10:04 made it mean like it was a failure. That someone else who I know people that, have just got, what's the cutoff? It's like 15 hours, isn't it? Or 17,
18, I
18
think.
hours, and
Yeah,
they've just got under the cutoff. Well, if they could do it in 10:04, they'd be like, that's their dream, isn't it? It's like,
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah.
I,
So yeah, it's all relative.
I think this is the difference though, and this is something that's been coming up when I'm coaching people a lot recently is the difference between need and want. Because I think what people think is the way you like we're sorry talking about it is that you go, well, why would you bother? Like, will you not be driven to go and get it if you don't need it? And this is addressed in the book, The Gap and the Gain, when they think like we think that you have to need it. But I love this thing of like when you need something, it's because there's some unresolved internal conflict. As in, like you think you're not good enough, and like you said earlier, you think crossing the line at under 10 hours means then you're good enough. But
Mm,
when you sort all that shit out internally, and like, and this goal is not attached to your self-worth, it is literally just a goal you're setting to stretch yourself. What I find is you set bigger goals. And you go, people think, well, you won't worry about getting it. You think, well, you do. Actually, you could go more all in because you could put all the effort in the world and not hit your goal, but it doesn't mean that you're not good enough.
mm.
And then if you fail, if you don't meet your desired result, you can go again. You can go again. Whereas I think people get demotivated when this goal is tied into themselves. Like, if I don't get this, this is what I'm going to make this mean about me.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm curious, have you had experience of that, John,
No.
in your work? Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's been a great conversation. Thanks, mate. Bye.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, bloody hell. Yeah, I've tied all sorts. I mean, one of the things was obviously when we were at college together, weren't we?
Yeah.
Back in God knows what year that was, 90.
Get all your fingers and toes
Yeah.
out, mate. 'Cause last time
Was
you
it?
were right, dog's ear of that. Oh,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we
a
known
long
each other for
time
20
ago.
years. Like, no, it's actually 30. But we did go to Somerville, so that's probably what the problem there.
Maths wasn't on the curriculum.
But yeah, and I know when I went down to Limpston, we went down Limpston pretty much together. I went down first, didn't I? And then you
Yeah.
you came down, and then I was back troop and put into your troop. But I was down there for all the wrong reasons,
Mm,
100%. But it was interesting because I went down there because I was like, I remember when I joined the public services course, there was I wasn't even interested in the military. I want to join the police, and it was only because
really?
yeah. My plan was I want to join the police, so I thought public service course would obviously be good. And then yeah, little did we know. And then we went, and then I thought, because they say, well, you can't get in if you're that young, you need some life experience. So I was like, oh, I could get in the military police. So that sparked my interest in the military. So that was going to be a few years, get that experience, and that gets me in the police. And then, of course, being there with you, and you were like all the time when you about the Royal Marines, that was your thing, and
Mm.
I was like, and for me, it was just like, well, that sounds like the hardest one to do, so I'm
Yeah,
gonna,
me too. Mm.
so I'm gonna do it. But I think mine was because I was just trying to prove, literally, probably like most people are, that I was good enough. I'm worthy. I can do this. And you love it. Like when I remember when I went off there and I was working at a pub and they had a big leave-in do, and you're like, oh, this is fucking brilliant. Everyone's going, oh, you'll make it, you'll make it. And then I didn't. And then, and this is the danger of what you make it mean, because
Mm.
I was down there and I never really looked at what it was really, but I just know everything sapped out of me. I was just like, I think I had this realization, I don't want this life. I don't want it. And but then there's the embarrassment, shame of coming out and doing all this sort of business. And because I was so attached to it, it was like a big thing. And I lied to myself for years about my reason for coming out. In because I went over on my ankles a couple of times, and I actually technically got medicaled out, but I could have stayed in 100%. There are people with worse injuries that got through. And yeah, and I think that's a classic where my worth was tied into it, which is what made me go for something in the first place that probably wasn't destined to do. But then equally, when I couldn't then do it, that I kept that hold of that for years, to the point where I know when we sort of lost contact a bit and we started getting it, I used to find it really hard if I seen you in Bath or something, because you represented the thing that I wasn't good enough to do. So it
Mm.
wasn't just like, oh yeah, you got that and like, happy for it. It's literally, I remember being out in Bath and we met up and we'd been at the bar and we got a drink and you walked off. And I remember sat at the bar, like just at the bar just for a little while, just thinking, fucking hell, I'm useless. Fuck. And it's, and then, yeah, and I think that's the problem when you have that attachment. And, uh, and it's probably been, that's probably my reason for joining the police, because I know what I did then. I threw myself into judo. I and come out of the Marines, felt like it was a massive failure. And then I was like, I'm going to do judo. And I did very well, got a Dan grade, and I was reasonably good player. But I used to push myself because it was like if I succeeded at that, then the failure that I'd had wasn't so painful.
Mm.
Um, but clearly you can't outrun it. And then joined the police and same sort of reasons. And it's only since probably that recent years through coaching and that where I've gone, no, none of this is me. None of this defines me. I am, and I would say it's as recent as this last year where I've really been comfortable who I am, really comfortable, like, as in like leaving the police and going, I haven't got any of it now. I'm just left with me. But it's such an amazing place to be because then you can go, right, I'm whole. What do I want to go out and do now? And if I fell, it means nothing about me, so it doesn't fucking matter.
Mm. Yeah, it's the thing I failed. I'm not a failure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think we've all got. I think what the work I've been doing recently is a lot on the ego and realizing all of this stuff we're talking about is all ego related, isn't it? This sense of I, which is probably a bit maybe a bit deep for people that listen to it. And I go, this is something I'm getting into, and it's really interesting. This identity, this mental construct of who we are. And I read it in a book where it said it's made up. How we relate to ourselves, it's made up and it changes. I'm different to how I was at 20. You think, but it's just how you perceive yourself. But your sense of I, your ego, it wants to protect itself. So then fail if, and that is, and I think we always have that. But what I'm trying to do is notice that. And so when I start going, oh, that didn't work, and I can feel it, it's more painful than it should be. I'm like, this is my ego's attached to this. I need this. So it's not that I never have that experience, but what I'm doing more and more now is noticing it and then letting it detach and just noticing when I'm attached to it. And I describe it as quite freeing. I don't think you're ever free of it altogether. I don't, maybe people will correct me, but I think it's a continuing thing you do.
Well, you get a different level of awareness and you get to catch it. yeah, I don't, yeah, like you said there, I don't think it doesn't happen. It's how soon can I catch it and the meaning that I give it.
Yeah, and your ego, how I look at it is your ego can be. I was listening to Alan Watts, and he said, like, your sense of I, your ego, is like it thinks it's separate from everything. And it's like this little scared child sat in the woods going, everything wants to kill me. So it's fearing everything. So when you're feeling fear, it's really that's ego, it's that sense of I. And this is what I understand like the Buddhists do, isn't it? They are dissolving that sense of I because when they haven't got that, there is no fear.
Mm.
They
Yeah.
say like when if you don't have a sense of identity, there's no fear. But and I realize I definitely haven't got to that level, and whether I ever will. But it's just amazing. Like when you're feeling fear now, I relate to it very differently, and I'm like, yeah, my ego's getting involved here because if I get this wrong, I had it recently with some private investigation work I'm doing, lots of fear and anxiety, and I was like, this is the ego because if I get this wrong, it thinks it's going to be criticized, and it's trying to protect itself. And just becoming aware of that is quite freeing because you haven't got to do anything with the fear then. You just notice it and let it sort of dissolve.
Mm. Yeah. It's really interesting here you talk about Limpston and I just like you went there probably for the reasons of proving myself to the world and when that wasn't enough I moved on to the next thing
Mm.
and when that wasn't enough moved on to the Special Forces selection and then well that wasn't enough moved on to the or ran away to the next thing it just continued so yeah it's
Mm.
definitely a pattern that shows up um for me as well and yeah I guess so in terms of judo, injury would have played a big part in that as well. I think there's an incredibly intelligence to our bodies, and it's gently saying, "Hey, this isn't your fight." Or yeah, in jiu-jitsu, for me, sorry, yeah, this isn't your fight. This isn't your fight. Whack. There you go. Take that.
Yeah.
Take 10 months off. Come back again when you're a bit more grounded. When you're a bit more
Mm.
when you can be a bit kinder to yourself. Yeah, there's
But
nothing here to.
but like you said there, the thing is, I think when we're young, testosterone fueled and all that, and you know, your prefrontal's not really developed to 25 anyway, is it? So your prefrontal cortex.
Mm,
So and and I see like my boys now, and they're naturally more competitive. And you are at that age, aren't you? Because in tribal days, you would have been more competitive. And I think as you get older, probably testosterone levels drop a bit and you don't get, you're not so competitive. But the thing is, like you were saying, this is sometimes a danger. It does get you results, doesn't it? Like you say, that drive, it can't be argued that drive to prove something, as in if you're talking about the steps, if you look at it, like from you, like from Somerville School, Bath College, Royal Marines, and they are SF, and you go on paper, you go, fucking hell, that's it's got you there. But I don't know what you think of this, but I think what it doesn't give is fulfillment. It doesn't you
yeah,
don't
yeah,
get,
100%.
and I think you can still get those results and chase stuff when you've got a good relationship with yourself. And this is what I'm trying to drum into my boys is going that like, you don't need this thing, but go out, give it your all because it's fucking fun. Like you
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
need
yeah.
it. Don't be less complacent and go, oh, choose carefully, but go for it. Don't worry about failing and go and just see what you can do. And for me,
Mm.
that's the difference.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love that. I love that, mate. Yeah, it's interesting watching my boy and his journey with basketball because he's a competitive lad. And it's really interesting to see these different streaks and this different character of him develop and come out as well in different situations. And I've been reminded recently he doesn't need a coach, he needs a dad. And in fact, he even labeled me the other day, Dad, I'm going to call you Mr. Speeches. I'd obviously launched into one of my very valuable speeches. Doesn't he know who I was and that I got a podcast? Yeah, but it reminds me to live that through what I am, how I'm being, rather than necessarily what I'm doing. Um,
Mm.
yeah,
Yes, it's
modeling it.
it is fascinating because it is interesting when we talk about like what's your view on competitiveness then, like with what you know now.
I think it's absolutely fine, but again, if I think about it for myself, it's just having an awareness around it. So it's absolutely fine to flip into competitive mode, and it's just to watch what's going on internally, especially the inner chatter about if I win or if I lose, or if I get beat or don't hit the mark. But as you alluded to earlier, I think it is a system. It can get great results. My question for myself is, it's sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you actually
And
looking for? Are you gonna get because if you're doing it to actually find fulfillment and peace within, well, you're not going to find it with that approach, are you?
exactly, yeah. So again, going back to sport, I train 2 or 3 times at the most, jiu-jitsu. My ego wants to do it 5 or 6 times a week.
Hmm.
But that'd have a be too big an impact on my family. I recognize that I'm of a certain age, that the recovery takes a bit longer, and there's lots of other things that I can do to help support that. So I think competitiveness is absolutely fine. It's just knowing, yeah, for me, how, what's behind that? Is it just, I just want to do this, do well? That's okay, but it's not to have a dependency on it. Yeah. What do you think
Well,
about
well,
competitiveness, mate?
exactly what you just said, really. So you ruined it because I was going to come out with that, but never
Wow.
mind. But exactly that, because I love that when you said it's what's behind it. Because what I was thinking, I just noted down is like it's all what we've talked about is your why. Like, it doesn't mean that you're not competitive. I think I'm less competitive, but I think it's choose now. But I think it's choosing like I don't need to be competitive when I'm going out whitewater kayaking because I'm not
Mm,
racing. Because,
mm,
and actually being competitive would sometimes ruin the experience for me because I want to be better than you, but we're not actually in a competitive situation. But what I find now is if you are in a competitive situation, if you're in a race, then you want to win the race, don't you? You are competing. But like you said, it's the what's behind it, it's the why. What do you make it mean if you do lose? Because
mm.
I know we went out for a bike ride the other day and all my other bikes were absolutely screwed. So I was on my old commuter and we turned up and one of my mates had his aero bike and the part of me was like, still beat you on that. and and then
Aero wanker.
yeah, and my other mate was on a gravel bike, and but it's really good fun. But I was pushing myself and going, and I had to really push myself because they're going, "Rrr." And but what I find the difference was when this is how it showed up for me. When I made the failure mean something about me, I wouldn't have gone on that ride to start with in the first place because I'd gone, I'm going to be left behind. That would be the first thing. But if I was on it, I'd probably made up some excuses why I was slower, and I would not have engaged in any sort of race because I thought I can't win this. But now I've released that. Like I was thinking, I don't think I've got hope in hell against this aero bike. And the guy, Mark, he's like, he's fit, he's cycling all the time. But I went, come on then, give you a sprint. I'll have you up there. And it was like, oh, I'm gonna race it. And he was just gone. He was just gone. And but it was nice because my ego didn't want to go. That little voice is always there, but it didn't want to make, oh, he's on a different bike. It's just like, he might be fairer than you. He just
Yeah.
might be better at this than
Didn't
you.
buy into it.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that's the difference. You can be competitive, and what I found is I've more likely to enter a competitive event now because I don't make it a personal thing. It's not attached to my self-worth. I before, unless I thought I could win something, I wouldn't do it. And I think of how many things I missed out on that I would have maybe just been mediocre at, but pretty good. For
Mm,
me, I'd been like, oh, that's pretty good and progressed more, which comes back to those marginal gains, that all or nothing. If I can't win, I'm not doing it.
mm,
And I think when I look back at my life, I don't look at it in regret because I can pass this on to my boys. I think I missed out on a lot of stuff. I think I missed out on a lot of things because I was competitive, but I had to win because otherwise it meant something negative about me.
Yeah, me too, mate. I'd prefer to play small in a tiny little pond and be the bigger fish than step out into the big pond and be a small fish. Yeah, 100%.
Whereas now, I
100%.
sort of go, when I go kayaking now, I actually seek out people that are better than me.
Hmm.
I like to be like in that lower because that is what's going to make me better. And but whereas before I'd been like, actually,
Yeah.
I want to be
But
around people that
that's
I'm a bit better at.
that's what makes it interesting about this sport jiu-jitsu that I'm doing is this that is there's both there's people that are better than you, but also when you do grapple or roll with people that aren't or haven't spent as long training as you, you get to see your progress.
Mm.
Like, right, yeah. You can connect these two or three things, or you can stop that move from happening because you've got the awareness, or you've done that many repetitions. Whereas a higher level belt, nah, you don't see half of it coming. Constantly getting choked on this average size neck. Um,
They must love it. They
uh,
must be like salivating when you come through the door,
didn't get tapped today. Uh,
like curry to a piss head.
I did have an interesting point to make there,
Oh, I'm sorry.
but anyway, yeah, it's all good, and yeah, it'll come back. You'll come back in a minute.
Oh, sorry, I've ruined that. I sorry.
No, no,
You were saying
yes.
about that when you're competing, those people like you see those people you're coming up with, and you start seeing those moves and stuff, but those other sort of like those black belts and that where you don't see it coming.
Yeah, yeah, it's there. I can feel it. It'll come back. It'll pop in. I can't quite grasp it yet.
Yeah,
It'll come back.
but I just think it is all fascinating, isn't it? Really, like when you think it's the opposite. Once you let go of the attachment, you actually, I think, get better results. I, I see it all the time. I see it with my coaching. I see it with, I've seen it like when I was out doing pull ups and I had a personal goal of doing a muscle up. As soon as I let go of it and was like, well, it's only going up over a bar, and it doesn't mean anything. If I could
Mm,
never do it, it's not a problem.
yeah,
Suddenly that you get it quicker.
yeah, yeah. Love it, mate. Love it.
Yeah. Well, I think
Love it.
do you think we're nearly near time, mate?
Yeah, I think we do. I
Let's
think we
let's
do. And I think the last thing I'd say is the two quick things. This is what I was alluding to earlier. That yeah, it's nothing. You've kind of hinted on it that we are separate from what we do and our results, so that it doesn't make us better. We're already good enough, I think, as a reminder to a younger version of myself. And that when we can find if we if I put all of my eggs in one basket, be that work or jujitsu, and solely place my value on like that can be a recipe or the start of a formula that can be quite expensive or painful to step away from. It's knowing that there's so many other elements to my character, to who I am and what I do. And that I remember talking to you about in the car when you said we should have a podcast about this was the upward spiral effect of just keeping showing up. So especially with it being so hot here at the moment, hydration's a big thing, you know, really stay on top of it. And when you do that, you feel a bit better. You probably eat slightly healthier, which drives me to rest more. When I'm rested more, I
Mm,
can hold my attention span better in the training sessions, which means that when I get home, I'll transition and take two or three breaths to drop into some sort of state of rest or digest before I walk through the door, which helps my recovery, which means I'll sleep better with blah blah. You know, so it goes this upward spiraling effect of all these little things that I get to do, don't have to do. Yeah, that's
yeah.
what I want to just.
Yeah, I love that. And that, yeah, and I think that's key. And what I want people to get from this really is because I know we actually haven't talked much about the actual the thing of breaking it down, but anything you're trying to do, and it could be a big goal like an Ironman, or it could literally be I'm just trying to go to bed earlier because I feel
Mm,
fucked in the morning. If you rather than going all like that's it, I'm going to bed early every night at 8 o'clock, just notch it back a bit. Just like make
yeah,
some progress, small progress, and measure that and continually do it. And I really believe that once it becomes a habit, then you haven't got to think about it. And
Mm.
it's, but if you go out, I know people that said, I'm going to start exercising. I was coaching someone recently and he's like, I'm going to the gym for an hour. And you're like, what about if you just got down to 2 press ups? Oh, yeah, well, that's easy. Yeah, that's the point. And then you
Yeah.
build that identity of that person that does that. Suddenly it becomes second nature and then you don't miss a day. So it's
Yeah.
harder to not do it. And I think that's the key is if you're that perfectionist mentality, just be really mindful of that all or nothing, like cutting everything out and then going really clean and then suddenly, oh, and then dropping off. That middle way is just more sustainable. And I think you live a happier life. That's my view on it.
Love it, mate. That sounds like an awesome place to end.
Awesome. Thank you very much for coming on. And oh, just one last thing. Can you introduce yourself? Because
Who?
because we didn't
Me.
even, yeah, because I said, oh, they were Ron, but we didn't even say you were. So go on, just do a little introduction for the end.
My name's Ron.
Yeah.
I've got a very long neck.
Yeah. We know that.
And I do one-to-one resilience coaching, working with high performers and leaders, yeah, helping them show up grounded to give them more confidence and clarity with what they're going through, especially transition and change.
And if this was an edited, polished podcast, I'd take that and I'd put it at the front somewhere, but I'm not. I'm going to
Yeah,
leave it
fuck
at the
that.
end. Fuck that. It's
Yeah,
staying at the
good
end.
enough. Yeah.
Lush, thank you very much for coming on, mate.
My pleasure. Lots of love, John. Speak soon, buddy.
Cheers, mate. Bye bye.